Your ass better call somebody.
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans dripped in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel and on X. And baseball is back to start the second half as the New York Mets face the Cincinnati Reds at home for a very special weekend. Obviously, if you've been living under a rock and a Mets fan, we all know that this weekend is all about the captain, David Wright, jersey retirement tomorrow. And this is the weekend. Obviously, if you watched the right way yesterday or Thursday, yesterday, you know how much he meant to Met fans and how much Wright felt about Met fans and just the overall career that unfortunately ended in a major back injury that cost him the rest of his career. He probably lost, I would say 3 to 4 years of really, really prime baseball where he could have had the numbers where he might have got a chance to get into the Hall of Fame. And who knows if he was, 100% healthy through the year into 2015, knowing that we got to the World Series, maybe it would have been a different outcome. Who knows? But it's a very special weekend for us Met fans as we retire number 5 for David Wright. How's everybody doing, guys? We finally got the boys back and we can start talking about games again. And, obviously we're only 13 days away until the MLB trade deadline. We are looking like the rotation is healthy for the first time this year. Obviously, going into the break in the Kansas City series, we saw Manaea, we saw Senga, which was a great sign. And, of course, with the days off because of the All-Star break, Manaea starts at home on a Friday night for the New York Mets' second start of the year. And this is the first time, obviously, he's going to start the game for the New York Mets this season. So this is a good sign. We got to keep these guys healthy. I've said it for a while. I just posted a video about a big trade that I think the Mets could possibly make. I know some people in the comments aren't happy about what we have to get, what I put in these trade proposals. I put 2 trades up there. Both of them I would do. And I left it up to everybody who watches that video to pick which one they would prefer. But when you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and get multiple arms, one in rotation, one in the bullpen, I think you can actually do a trade like that. And, yes, it might be a bit over an overpay. But in my scenarios and my trade proposals, you're not using top 10 prospects. You're using somebody who's been in the majors for a decent, the majority of the season. And also add an extra year of service time, which is very appealing to teams like the Pirates, the Rockies, the White Sox. So it is going to be a very, very fun second half as the Mets are 13 games over 500. I put in the poll how many wins you think the Mets will have to end the season as a total. I forgot the number I had. I think it was 94 wins. I think I had for my season preview for my win total for the New York Mets. So, I'm going to stick to my guns there. The way the Phillies have not run away with anything when the Mets are playing so bad in the month of June, the Phillies could have easily ran away with the division. They did not play great. They played good, but they didn't go on those extended winning streaks. They were winning 4, losing 3, winning 5, losing 2 in a row. So they really haven't got, take a big step forward when the Mets were struggling. And that's great for the New York Mets because now they're getting healthier. But as I said in the last couple of shows prior to the All-Star game and the last Mets Talk Live, if you guys haven't watched it, me, Zach, and Chris spent almost 2 hours the day of the All-Star game before it in regards to what this team needs to do. It's not about just the Mets acquiring talent to get better, but it's to avoid teams like the Phillies, the Cubs, the Dodgers, getting those guys, because a lot of the teams that we're facing in the National League need very similar things. Now, rotation-wise, obviously the Phillies probably not looking for a rotation, so that might help the Mets a little bit, but the Cubs are always looking for pitching. We know the Dodgers are always looking for starting pitching. They always get somebody at the deadline. You got to make sure that you're the one with the upper hand here and not the team that you're trying to beat out for a best record in the National League or winning in a division. You can't let the Phillies go out there and get the better bullpen arm. Maybe get another bat. You can't do that. You got to get, and even if they do get one really high leverage arm, you got to get something similar. You can't give me, a Michael Givens. You can't give me, Phil Maton and expect people to be excited about that. Even a static move is not good enough because I know the Phillies are going to do something big. It's either in the bullpen or another big bat to add to that lineup. Same thing with the Dodgers. Same thing with the Cubs. This is where the Mets have to realize that this is the time to make these moves. This is the time where you're one of the top 5 teams in baseball. You're one of the top teams in the National League. You can't sit on your hands and not make a big move. And again, I'm okay with, I don't want the big move to be the bullpen arm. I think that's a coward way out. If David Stearns gets, let's say, a Bednar or Emmanuel Clase, that sounds like a big move. But what is one bullpen arm really going to do to this team that has struggled offensively all year? And a rotation that, how can you trust a rotation that Manaea has been hurt the whole year, Senga has been hurt again, and Clay Holmes looks like he's gassed in the first half? So you can't really trust a rotation that is a lot of question marks still. You need somebody to fill some innings here as well and also pitch well where you have him as an option pitching in the playoffs. Paul Blackburn's not going to cut it. Paul Blackburn was a stupid trade last year. It made no sense. He was not pitching in the playoffs. It was a waste of a trade. So I'm looking at it in so many different ways, not just getting the Mets better, but avoiding other teams getting better while you stay stagnant or might get a little bit better. Again, David Stearns needs to make B or A moves. Anything below that is a waste of time and a half-ass and another deadline. I don't know if you guys saw the report that came out, but there are 4 guys, according to a couple of reports that they've heard, that David Stearns does have untouchables. Jet Williams is one of them, which is a big problem, in my opinion, because that's probably every team is going to ask for Jet Williams. Jonathan, Brandon Sproat, and McLean. So, and I know, and I understand why those 3 pitchers are untouchables, but to put Jet Williams in that mix just makes me understand that Luisano Acuna is more expendable than we originally thought. Is Vientos or Beatty a part of trade talks as well? So I'm not excited that the fact that that report is coming out, that the Mets are having that many guys in your top 10. You got, let's see, 4 out of your top, 7 prospects untouchable? So that means you're working with 6 guys, and that's a stretch. So you got 6 guys to make 3 important moves. The Mets have 3 needs. at least one high leverage bullpen arm, at least one starting pitcher that's in at least the middle of the rotation, that's a number 3 at best, and possibly better, and a bat. So if they're not going to address all those needs, or even if they wanted to, if you got 4 out of your 10 top prospects untouchable, what are you really doing at this deadline? Unless you're taking from your major league roster and that goes to Vientos, Beatty, Acuna, then what are we doing here? So that worries me within itself. I don't know if anybody saw that report. I think it was either John Heyman or somebody else, but it was a legit report. And then somebody else, a couple other reporters retweeted it and confirmed it. The fact that if that's possible, that should scare the hell out of you as a Met fan. Because I'm sorry, guys, I'm sick and tired of holding on to these goddamn prospects that, can we be honest, guys? Is it really possible that all 3 of those guys are going to be legitimate starters in this league? Like, if that's what you're hoping for, it's moronic. I'm sorry to say. And I don't care which guy you like. If you like Tong more than other guys, you like Sproat more than the other guys, McLean more than the other guys, doesn't matter. The fact that you might get lucky where one of them turns out to be half of Jacob deGrom, or even a number 2. Hopefully, one of them do turn into an ace. But to have those 3 guys untouchable tells me that, 1, Stearns has no idea which one is going to be actually good and which one might be the top pitcher in this farm system. Number 2, he's reluctant to make the big deal because I don't see, like, I got to pull it up because I know we got to get into this game a little bit, but it's so frustrating to me because, like, it shouldn't be a case like that. Like, again, the Dodgers are going to go out there and get better. The Phillies are going to get better. The Cubs are going to get better. And what are the Mets going to do? Talk about the 4 prospects that are untouchable? It's stupid to me. Sorry. So let me just put this in perspective before we get into the game. All right. Now, I was a little bit nicer about the top 10 prospects, right? Jet Williams, Jonah Tong, Noah McLean, and Brandon Sproat. All 4 of those guys, according to the reports, are untouchable. That is 4 of your top 5 prospects. Now, is Carson Bench not untouchable? Because that could be a big piece for somebody. Ryan Clifford, Jesus Baez, Elian Pena. They're not trading Elian Pena. They just signed him to a massive international deal. Drew Gilbert, Jeremy Rodriguez. Like, what is that going to get us? I'm sorry. That might get you a bullpen arm, maybe. But it ain't getting you a legitimate bat. It ain't getting you a legitimate rotation piece. I'm sorry. Carson Bench might not get you what you actually want. You know, maybe it could get you a decent starter. Maybe. I'm sorry, guys, but the Phillies, and I talked about this on the last show with Chris and Zach on Mets Talk Live during the All-Star break. If you listen to Phillies sports radio, and I know a lot of people are like, why would you listen to sports radio? Well, I'm trying to do a YouTube channel here, and I'm trying to get information to understand that it ain't just the Mets that you have to worry about. It's other teams in your division, number 1, and in your league. The Phillies fans have been clamoring Dave Dombrowski to make a big move. Now, it's probably not going to be in the rotation. It's probably going to be a big bat or multiple high leverage arms in the bullpen because the Phillies bullpen has been bad. They're going to do it. Make no mistake about it. The Phillies team is getting older. Their stars are getting older. There's a couple of guys that are free agents after this year. That team can look a lot different next year. And I talked about the Phillies, World Series, NLCS, NLDS. This year, wild card. That's basically, you know, where they could be playing in a wild card series if they don't have one of the 2 best records. They're going to go for it. So you got a team in your division that is guaranteed going to go for it. You got the Dodgers. We all know they're going to do something. So, you know, they're going to pick a starting pitcher and they're going to get them. They're going to get bullpen arms. So teams that are in your league, in your division, are going to make moves. Dave Dombrowski also came on the radio on Sports Talk Radio in Philly and specifically said that we are going to be very aggressive at this trade deadline. So what does that tell you? What does aggressive mean? That means that they're not worried about top prospects. Nobody should be untouchable. I'm sick and tired. Like, I'm sorry. There is no way any of those four guys, Williams, Tong, McClain, or Sproul, are top line guys. Is Joe Williams going to be Tatis Jr.? Vlad Guerrero? Probably not. Any of the three pitchers I just mentioned, are they going to be a Paul Skeens? Are they going to be a top of the line starter? Like, I just don't understand. Like, I just don't understand it. Well, David, exactly. The Phillies have a lot of free agents after this year. That's why they're going for it. Again, they've been going downhill for the last 3 years. World Series, NLCS, NLDS, and what holds them this year? You think they're going to just sit back there and say, oh, let's get a middle road reliever and maybe a decent bat? No, they're going to get the best on the market. And in what happened last year, as the Mets, kind of embarrassed them in the NLDS, well, they're pissed. So I just don't understand. I just don't understand. Yeah, Joel, I understand starting pitchers is going to cost you firstborn, but David Stern should know this. If you're not going to spend money on a rotation, which David Stern clearly doesn't like to do, you can't come to the deadline and give me Paul Blackburn. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, if these guys are so untouchable, why weren't they helping this rotation when they were in shambles in June? There's two reasons. Number one, they don't think they're as good as everybody thinks they are. Or two, maybe that report is false, which I find that very hard to believe because David Stearns works in his fashion. Well, David, I want Duran and he's not a rental. Yeah, I agree. He's not a rental. But when you got 4 of your top 5 prospects, according to the reports, that are untouchable, you're not getting Duran. You're just not. It's just mind-boggling to me that report comes out 2 weeks before the deadline. Like, what are you working with here? You're working with guys with like Jesus Baez, Ryan Clifford, Carson Benz, Drew Gilbert, Jeremy Rodriguez. That's your top. The rest of the guys in your top 10 that are quote unquote not untouchable. So I just don't understand. Like, you lose 4 out of your top 10 prospects automatically in any trade talks because teams are going to ask for these guys. I'm sorry, but when you have Brett Beatty and Vientos and Mauricio on this roster right now, there is no reason why Jet Williams and or Luis Angel Acuna aren't on the market to get proven players in here. Like, I just don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. Yeah, Dolo, I don't think Cohen gets involved in deadline type discussions. Obviously, he knows what's going on, but I think the offseason is a whole different ballgame. I think Cohen is very involved. When it comes to the deadline, he makes David Stearns cook. Now, maybe I'll eat my words and Cohen does go out there and say, listen, we got to do what we got to do here. But how many more years are we going to waste the Lindor really good years, the Pete Alonso years, the Nimmo years? Again, there's no guarantee that Pete Alonso is going to be a Met after this year. Brandon Nimmo is another year older. Francisco Lindor is another year older. Like, you can't wait 2 or 3 years down the road when these guys are 34, 35 years old and expect them to still be at their prime level and playing at their best. Does not make sense. So, a lot to talk about as baseball is back. Mets are facing the Reds. We got Sean Manaea on the mound, finally, hopefully healthy. I think they're going to take it very easy with him. I don't think they're going to, extend him, which is another thing that annoys the hell out of me. But whatever. Sorry, guys. I'm a little under the weather, so I got my tea. I'm coughing up a storm here, so I apologize for that. But if I sound like a horse, that's why, because I'm losing my voice. I'm sick. Sick during the summer sucks. There's no doubt about that. But let's get into the game, guys. We got Sean Manaea on the mound against Nick Lodolo. And look, the Reds are a couple of games over 500. They're kind of hanging on as a team that possibly might try to be buyers at the deadline, but I find that hard to believe. I think, let me just check where they are right now. I don't know where they are. I don't keep up on, they're 4th place in the NL Central, 8 games back. In the wild card, they're 2.5 games back. So they're not far away, right? I mean, that's the problem. The other problem when it comes to the deadline, right? Because of the wild card and the 3 teams that make it, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are 5.5 games or less out of a wild card spot. And the Marlins 7.5, and then it goes down from there. So, the Pirates, the Nationals, the Rockies, like those teams are out of it. We know that in the National League. Miami probably going to be sellers, even though they're only 7.5 games out of a wild card spot. I don't expect them to, be buyers here, so they're going to be sellers. And Atlanta is probably going to sell off Ozuna and guys like that. Not going to trade any of the big guys, but they're going to trade guys that are probably going to be free agents at the end of the year. So we will have to wait and see. And yeah, Wright is at CitiField, the Mets first draft pick in his draft. He was taking batting practice. Love to swing, right? I love to see where he's going to rank in the Mets top prospects. I wouldn't be shocked if he's going to be bumped up to the top 10 somewhere once the new updated version comes out. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting when it comes to, what the Mets are going to put the deadline to the side. The Mets, at least pitching wise in a rotation, are healthy, right? Again, let's see them pitch every 5th or 6th day. The All-Star break kind of gave the Mets a little bit of a way out and start the rotation the way they wanted to. But I want to see Sean Manaea build up, go every 5th or 6th day. Senga, same thing. Like, I'm sorry, if you're going to have all these guys go once every 6th day, these guys need to go deeper into games. I'm sick and tired. Like, what is the point of a 6-man rotation if all you're worried about is the innings of these guys? Well, then you didn't do a good job, David Stearns, in building this rotation. And that's why it doesn't make any sense. You're not spending money on the rotation in the offseason. You're getting rid of 4 of your top 6 prospects that are supposedly untouchable. So how are you making this rotation better? And I don't even think you're going to get Mitch Keller in that aspect. Again, Acuna wasn't on that list. Obviously Mauricio, Vientos weren't on the list. I think Mauricio is going to be here unless it's a deal where you can get a massive blockbuster trade where Mauricio isn't a deal. But in that situation, I think it would be a third baseman, Eugenio Suarez, maybe even a Jose Ramirez from Cleveland. Like, I know that outside the box in a situation where the Mets have 42 third basemen in their system and on this roster, but that's a situation where, that solves a bat. It really does. You got 31 home runs from Suarez. You got Jose Ramirez having a hell of a year. You got to take on that big contract of Jose Ramirez, but I don't see that much of a problem. That might take the Mets not really being serious about Pete Alonso, and that's a discussion for another day. Well, easy. I would too. Like I said, I'm not the prospect hugger that everybody probably wants me to be. I'm not. Right? I don't think you should go into a deadline having anybody untouchable, because there might be a team that is willing to trade with the Mets. And why would they have a conversation with the Mets if all 4 of the guys you mentioned, you can't even bring up one of them? And it's a no right off the bat. Like, it's stupid negotiation tactics. Now, again, it's 13 days away. I'm not throwing Stearns under the bus yet. But hearing these reports piss me off. He gets time to prove me wrong. I don't have confidence in it. I know my boy Chris and Zach do. I don't. And that's okay. That's their opinion. And that's my opinion. That's how it goes. Right? We're not always going to agree. We're going to agree to disagree here. But in my opinion, that report going out and the way the Mets drafted this year, when it was 15 out of their 18 draft picks were pitchers, just confirms the fact that they're not spending money on pitching because the draft told you that. What they're doing with this quote-unquote untouchable list is all 3 of the top 5 pitchers in our farm system. And on top of that, if those guys are untouchable, how are you going to get pitching in here? What do you think the Pirates are going to want? They're going to want all position player backs? No. You think they're going to say, hey, give us Tidwell, thank you? No. There's going to be somebody that's going to outbid you, and that can't happen. That can't happen. So I don't know. Yeah, well, Mike, that rumor has really, now we heard a little bit of a conversation about Ramirez possibly being on the market. I think the Ramirez is going to be a package deal. I think Ramirez is going to be with Clase, or Ramirez is going to be with Kwan. And that's a situation where I think the Mets should go get Emmanuel Clase and Kwan. It doesn't, obviously Clase has not been good in the playoffs, but he's a high leverage reliever that, that's a crazy 8 and 9, in your bullpen, 8th and 9th inning guy. And, bringing in Kwan, which I don't think the Mets would do because he's kind of a Tyrone Taylor. He got better speed, but he doesn't, he's not having a great season. He doesn't have a lot of RBIs. He's not a home run hitter. He's not a big average guy. So he's a guy that just has speed. But I don't think Kwan is going to make a difference in this lineup. This guy's going to bat 8th or 9th in this lineup. He's got tremendous amount of speed. He's probably just as good, if not a little bit worse, than Tyrone Taylor defensively. So I don't know if that's a big upgrade, to be quite honest with you. Now, if you get Jose Ramirez and Kwan, now there's your big bat, and Kwan kind of makes your overall lineup better. But I just don't know. Like, you're gonna have to take the contract of Ramirez, so that's why I think they would have to package him with a Kwan or a Emmanuel Clase, because they got to get more in his deal. That's why I don't think it's going to be a package. If Jose Ramirez gets traded, it's probably going to be on its own. I think it's going to be for 2 to 3, maybe even 4 prospects. And again, if the Mets make that Jose Ramirez move, forget about a bullpen or a rotation piece. It's not happening, because you're probably going to have to give 2 or 3 top prospects. And again, if 4 out of your top 5 guys are untouchable, how are you doing that? And I even think Elian Pena, who they just signed internationally, is probably untouchable, unless he's not. But you just signed him, so I don't think he's available. So that's 5 out of your top 10 guys that are probably not available. Now, again, can you, I don't know. That's why it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just weird how this report's coming out. There's a top 10 prospect that you just signed internationally that's probably not going to get traded. And then that list comes out of untouchables. Like, how are you supposed to improve? Like, middle of the road deadline deals is not going to make this team where it needs to be. Because I'm telling you guys right now, we're going to be very disappointed, because the Phillies are going to do something big, the Dodgers are going to do something big, and probably the Cubs, knowing that Kyle Tucker hasn't signed an extension and they're trying to win with him, because there's no guarantee he's going to re-sign with them. Like, you got teams in your own league that are going to go all in and going to do everything they can to get better. Like, you can't let Mitch Keller go to the Cubs or go to the Dodgers. You can't have David Bednar go to the Cubs, go to the Phillies. Like, you just can't do that. You can't have that happen. Those guys should be on your team at the very least. If you're not going to get Keller and Bednar, then what the hell are you doing? I just don't understand. Like, what are we going to talk about? Brooks Raley being an addition, like a trade deadline acquisition? Come on. Seriously? That is not moving the needle for me at all. So, well, at least Sonny Gray's a good pitcher, right? I know it was a disaster with the Yankees, but at least he's a solid pitcher. He's a really good pitcher. He can easily fit in your top 3. So I would be okay with that. Now, could he pitch in New York? Who the hell knows? But I'm not. I honestly have no faith in David Stearns after that report came out. And again, is that true or not? Is that because, again, I don't think John Heyman went to Stearns and said, "Hey, David, who's untouchable in your farm system?" I find it hard to believe David Stearns is that stupid and should be smart enough not to put that out there. But where is it coming from? If it's coming from other executives around the league that Stearns is saying no when they ask for him, well, there's your list. So that means it's probably even more correct than it being a bad report. Because I guarantee you, John Heyman probably talked around the league, right? You know who David Stearns are talking to. You're talking to the Guardians, the Pirates, probably the White Sox, a couple of other teams here or there. So there's not a lot of teams in this pool that, the Mets are talking to. So John Heyman only has to call the executives that the Mets are possibly talking to and to have the most available. And he was like, hey, what is David Stearns saying no to any of the prospects? That's probably where John Heyman got that list from, not from David Stearns. So that makes it even more sad, is that when are you ever going to go for it? Like, if you're not going to go for it in a year when you're one of the top 5 teams in baseball, then like what do I want? Like what can I do at this point except bitch and moan? Again, the prospect huggers will be very excited. But when these guys are untouchable, these guys should be helping this big league club. That's what doesn't make sense. I said, if you want to keep these prospects, let them help the team. At least one of these guys. Like, all right, Jet Williams, where is he going to play? I get that. But Tong, McLean, Sproat, can one of these guys come up in this rotation? Because if you don't get a rotation arm, and if you get anybody less than Mitch Keller, it is such a waste of time. I'd rather see one of the kids. Because if they're not going to be traded and they're untouchable, then let them help this team. Their opportunity was in June to see what these guys have at the major league level. They weren't willing to do it for quote-unquote spot starts. It's very frustrating. But we do have a game today. If anybody didn't notice, we finally got baseball back, which is, thank God, because I drove myself nuts these last couple of days. I don't care about the All-Star game. I don't care about the home run derby. I just don't. I barely watched it. I woke up the next morning and I saw Pete Alonso's 3-run homer. That's it. I just didn't care. I don't care about the All-Star game. It doesn't do anything for me. I'd rather have none of the players that were on the All-Star team play at all. I'd rather them just rest, especially Lindor with the toe. But it is what it is. Nobody got hurt. That's a plus. With this next two series at home, when we got the Reds and we got the Angels, right? These are teams that the Mets are better than. Now, that doesn't always give you wins just because you're better than a team. We've seen that more than enough around baseball. But with Manaea, with Senga, with Clay Holmes in this series, the New York Mets, you need to dominate this series. There's no more excuses. There isn't for this roster right now. Your rotation is healthy. Your offense, we're almost at the 100-game mark. Like, can the offense please win us 2 weeks worth of games? You're gonna have better pitching. At least you hope, because they're healthy. The offense needs to step up here. You're gonna have a packed house, definitely for these next 3 games, because it's David Wright's obviously jersey retirement on Saturday, bobblehead on Sunday. I think it's fireworks night tonight. So you're gonna have massive crowds in these next 3 days. It's summer, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against the Angels. That's a team you don't see often in New York. Mike Trout's there. I know it's kind of like the end of Mike Trout, but Mike Trout is there. So Mets are winning. People are going to show up. It's going to be electric. Like, this team needs to feed off this energy, and they have this year at home. They've been one of the best teams, if not one of the best teams in baseball at home. So they got to do it. Now, if you notice the lineup, Lindor is back in the leadoff spot. I'm a little surprised by that. But I see why Mendoza did it. Your best lineup is Lindor in the leadoff spot. That's when he's been the most productive for our organization since we got him. So I think because the offense was so bad and he needed to get not just Lindor going, but other guys going, you got to switch it up a little bit. Soto out of the 2-hole, put him 3, cleanup hitter, Alonso, Nimmo in the leadoff spot. Awesome. But putting Lindor back there, I think is the best decision. I was a little shocked that they did it, but I think it's the best decision. I don't like Mark Vientos between Lindor and Soto, but I also get the idea. Vientos had a couple of big hits, looked better at the plate in Kansas City prior to the All-Star break. Hopefully he can continue to get better because he's a huge piece to this lineup. If he's not going to do it, I don't trust the Mets to get a big bat here, even though they should. If Vientos doesn't do it, I don't know where the Mets go here. I don't think Mauricio is going to be that much of a difference maker right now, at least this year, to help this lineup after the top 4. That's my biggest problem. After Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, I don't trust anybody else. I don't trust Vientos. Mauricio is still trying to figure things out as a major leaguer. We know Taylor's not a good hitter. We know Torrens is not a good hitter. Jeff McNeil has been solid, but again, it's a different Jeff McNeil. So I don't know where you go. You need somebody to step up. If it's Vientos, if it's Mauricio, shoot, if it's Jeff McNeil, even more. I'm not really sure. Like, obviously we're 13 games over 500. We're half a game out of first place. So it's not the end all be all. It's not the end of the world. But when you're trying to, in my opinion, the best scenario for the New York Mets is to get the 2 top records in the National League. I want that bye. I know that a lot of people might not like that because you get days off and the buys haven't really worked out over the years since this was implemented, that 2 teams get the bye. But I don't want to play wild card weekend. I don't want to play wild card weekend. Like, you can win the division and be the 3rd best record and play in a wild card series. Yes, you play at home, but we know how crazy those games are. Anything can happen. So they got to, in my opinion, get one of the 2 best records. They need that bye. And the reason why I say that, because you're going to give a lot more rest to Kodai Senga, you're going to give a lot more rest to Sean Manaea, Clay Holmes, et cetera. So, Sal, what's up, buddy? So that's where I am when it comes to what I want for the remainder of the season. I think 94 wins or more is going to get you an opportunity to be one of the top 2 teams in baseball, in the National League, and get that bye. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but I just feel like that's where it is. I put up a poll. I can't see the poll at the moment, but I asked you guys, what is the win total for the New York Mets to end the year? I went from 85 plus, because if they don't win 85 games, that means they have a terrible second half. So 85 plus, 90 plus, 95 plus, and 100 plus. Now, I'm in that 90 to 95 range, but if I would have had to vote, because it's not easy to vote with this when you're trying to pick a number, I think the Mets, even if they play well at home, so that helps. I think they can get to 95 wins. And I think if they get past 95 wins, I think they have the division with no problem. It's just a matter of the Cubs, the Dodgers. Are those 2 teams going to be the best records, 2 best records in the National League? And now the New York Mets have to play a wild card series against pick your poison. We have no idea who's it going to be. It could be San Diego, it could be St. Louis, it could be anybody. So, well, Truman, he's not going to make a move. I think he will make moves. And again, I don't think this is a scenario where he's not making moves. I just don't think it's going to be the sexy moves that, or at least even one sexy move that everybody probably wants. I'm sorry. If you get a starter, and if apparently with the reports, they're looking for a starter. If you get anything less than Mitch Keller, it's a waste of time, in my opinion. If you get anything less than a high leverage reliever, and I'm talking about the top 3 or 4 guys on the market, what are we doing here? How much better is that? The bat. If you get a bat in here that is not, at the very least, Cedric Mullins, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? So I don't know. It's very annoying with the report that came out that 4 of our top 5 prospects, according to John Heyman and multiple other reporters, that those guys are untouchable. And I can name them for you if you want, again, if you're just tuning in. That is Williams, McLean, Tong, and Sproat. So, and again, I'm throwing Elian Pena in there because he just signed with the Mets internationally. So 5 guys are untouchable out of your top 10. How are you making deals that are going to impact this team, like legitimate impact this team? I just don't see it. And, when I talk to Chris, when I talk to Zach, I want to bring that up to them because I'm very curious to what they think about this report. And it's frustrating because, that probably doesn't make them very happy either, considering the fact that, people were talking about Jet Williams. Now, if the Mets are willing to trade Ronnie Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna, that's a whole different ballgame. Now, if you trade those guys, I think you have to bring in a third baseman with that trade. And if that's a Eugenio Suarez, that's a Jose Ramirez, a big bat at the third base position, then okay, I get it. Oh yeah, Marcos PCA would be a good fit. But again, I'm not, crying a river here about that, right? I voiced my opinion about that. It was a stupid trade. That team was not good enough to make a trade like that. You trade PCA when Javier Baez was the missing link to a team. It's the Yankees, the Cubs trading Gleyber Torres to get Chapman. That was their final piece. They needed the closer. They got a World Series out of it. That's when you make that type of move. To make that move, Javier Baez was far from making that team the final piece, being the final piece of that team. That's why it was stupid. It was a situation where Epler wanted to appease Lindor, who was kind of finding his way in New York, and to bring his friend in here to make it a little easier for him. Obviously, that blew up in our faces. But I'm not going to be scared and worry about who's going to be a PCA. I'm just not worried about that. Because if the Mets believe that any of these guys are going to be close to a PCA, well, guess what? That fucking guy should be up here helping his team. If Jet Williams is believed to be a really good center fielder and they believe in his bat, bring him up here and play center field. What are we waiting for here? Same thing goes for Tong, Sproat, McLean. Bring him up. I just don't understand it. We're not using these. And yes, I'm sorry. It was Zach Scott. That was right. Even still, who cares who it was? The fact of the matter is, it was a stupid trade because the team wasn't good enough. PCA is kind of what Jet Williams is right now, the number one prospect. Jet Williams should be on the market to get somebody that is going to help this team. If not, why isn't Jet Williams playing center field on his team right now? He can't be worse than Tyrone Taylor at the plate. Now, I don't watch Syracuse baseball or Binghamton baseball on a daily basis and tell you how good Jet Williams is in center field. How many games has he played in center field? Couldn't tell you. Haven't looked at it. But he's a second baseman shortstop that was put into center field because the Mets have 47 shortstop, second baseman, third baseman in their farm system. So that's stupid. Buxton's not happening. Buxton already came out and says he wants to stay in Minnesota. He has a no trade clause. Not happening, guys. Not happening. And that's a guy I never trust. That guy's one wrong turn away from getting hurt again. And I'm not giving up the farm to do that for Buxton because I don't need a guy in here that I have to worry about injury when I got half the rotation that I have to worry about with injuries, along with Nimmo. So I just don't understand it. I'm frustrated by it. When I saw that report, I was at work when I saw that report. And obviously, you guys know, most of you know, I moved to North Carolina. Luckily, I moved to a job or a transfer to a new location that I don't know how this is possible, but I picked a location that has a ton of Met fans and a ton of people from New York, New Jersey, and Staten Island. So, and they're all Met fans, or most of them are Met fans. So, I was pissed. And I'm like, you fucking kidding me? This is the report that's coming out 13 days before the deadline. So, geez. In my opinion, guys, I'm glad this rotation is healthy. Again, do I trust that? No. It's nice that Sean Manaea doesn't have any innings at all on his arm starting in the middle of July, which is a good sign. But again, he's a guy that had an oblique injury. And the reason why he didn't come back earlier was because he has a loose body in his elbow. That's always concerning. Again, unless you have surgery to remove that loose body, which he didn't, that loose body is moving around his elbow. And at any given moment, in the bullpen, on the mound pitching, that loose body could lodge itself in an area where it's extremely painful. And that's not going to be good because he can't pitch. So that worries me. That's going to worry me every single time Manaea goes on the mound. Kodai Senga can't make a stretch to first base without pulling a hamstring. His soft tissue injuries are a joke. And he's always had that injury concern coming out of Japan. So no surprise there. Clay Holmes looks gassed. Can't go past 5 innings. David Peterson has been better. I like him. So we'll see. But we do have the Reds. We got Manaea on the mound. We got Lodolo on the mound for the Reds. I love the fact that Jeff Passan came out and believes that Juan Soto is very pissed he didn't make the All-Star game. And he predicted that Juan Soto is going to have the most home runs in the second half. Now, depending on how you feel about Juan Soto and what you want to see from him, I know a lot of people are going to say, ooh, that would be nice. Let him hit 20-something home runs or 15 to 20 home runs in the month, in the remaining couple of months of the season. That might excite people. but I want his average to get up. I want him to be a run producer. I know the home runs, because he can hit 20 more home runs. 15 of them are solo. How much impact is that on the team? So he needs to be better with runners in scoring position. Now, if he hits those home runs with 2 men on, 1 man on, 3 men on, great. But that's got to happen. He's been terrible with runners in scoring position. That needs to change. I'd rather him get base hits with men on than worrying about the home run ball, because he is not a home run hitter. He's just not. He is a guy that's around the 25 to 35 home run guy, somewhere in that range, but more of around the 30 home run guy, which is really good. But I don't want to see him swinging for the fences every single time, because I don't think that's going to. All right, let's see. Next 10 days will tell us if we're going into the trade deadline with both feet. Paul, that's a great comment there. Sal, I said, I don't know if you guys checked out my video, but about, what was it? Right before the All-Star break, I put out a video in regards to trading for Josh Naylor and Zach Allen. And if you want to look at the video, I put a package there that would go back to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I do that trade. Now, Josh Naylor isn't a home run guy. He ain't a big home run guy. He'll probably have about 16 to 17 home runs, maybe 18 home runs. But it's not about the home runs. He's a 285, 290 hitter. He puts the bat on the ball. Nearly has 100 hits before 100 games. This guy's a hitter. That guy gets on base. That guy gets the bat on the ball. That's what this lineup needs. This lineup doesn't need another high strikeout home run guy. It just does. That's not what we need. We need a high volume hitter. Josh Naylor will give you another probably 6 to 7 more home runs this year for the remainder of the games, but he'll give you a 285, 290 average. I like that. And Zach Gallen, I think, needs to change the scenery. And I think coming into a pennant race, getting out of Arizona is going to make him better. And everybody loves the pitching lab. Put Zach Gallen in there and see if we can get him from a 5 ERA to a 3.5 ERA, because that's a huge jump. We'll see. So, guys, we got the Mets. We got the Reds. Baseball is back in Queens. Finally, too much going on other than playing games. And now we can go crazy on playing games and worry about every inning, every pitch, every at-bat, every bullpen move. And I'm excited about that, guys. I'm not going to be able to do a post-game today. I do believe Chris is doing a post-game, but you guys can look out for that video, for that live stream that pops up. I spoke to Chris earlier today, but I've been under the weather trying to get some sleep. But I think he's doing a post-game show, so look out for that. I can't do one tonight. I'm trying to get some rest, taking some medicine, and hopefully I feel better by tomorrow. But I don't know. My voice might be gone by then, and that might make a lot of people happy. But we'll see, guys. So the start of the second half is today. This weekend is very special for all of us Met fans, as David Wright's number 5 gets retired tomorrow, and it's a big celebration for Mets fans and David Wright. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning into the Amazing Mets pregame show right here and the channel and on X. Hopefully, you guys are talking about a Mets win against the Reds, and Sean Manaea looks good and healthy in tonight's game. Fireworks night, black jerseys tonight for the New York Mets. Enjoy the game, guys, and have a good night, guys. Let's go, Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets.